stool ready just in case any of you need it. And I'll kind of. You can halfers it. There we go. That's perfect. So if anyone needs it. All right. So let's see here. We're going to get started. So good morning, everybody. And we're here for one of our updates for the day, and all sorts of things to touch on today. I think, though, a couple of topics to highlight. We obviously have a new public health order and some instructions from the governor. So we're going to talk a little bit about the city side of that. And then we also are going to talk about APD reform a little bit today. We're joined by our deputy chief in charge of APD reform. And we're also going to remind folks about some avenues with respect to civil rights issues that where in ways the city can help. So we'll touch on those, and we'll try and take some questions too. And for us, let me begin, I think, by saying that, as part of the state's proactive testing efforts to identify and isolate and trace new cases, the Department of Health has designated a special statewide COVID-19 testing hours for employees who work to provide New Mexico families with food. This includes basically workers in restaurants, grocery stores, farmers markets, distribution centers, food manufacturing facilities. You can get special testing. And so you can reach out to the Department of Health to find out more information on that. Now, also want to mention that there's drive-through testing now also available at the Consulate of Mexico starting June 13th from 8 to 11. And again, that's drive-through testing at the Mexican consulate here just outside of downtown in Albuquerque. Okay, I also want to mention, of course, breweries are allowed to open again. So I know a lot of folks are excited about that. I don't think it's a surprise, but the city is going to follow suit and, of course, allow that to happen as well. So we're going to continue to stay in step with the state on that and not have stricter restrictions. So I do want to remind folks, though, that the city has a number of ways to support expanding your capacity. So for breweries, restaurants, everyone who's trying to deal with the capacity limitations, contact the city planning department on how you can use your parking lot and your sidewalks so that you can expand that capacity so you can still serve all those customers, but in a socially distanced, safe way. So there's a full suite of ways that we're actually supporting restaurants to reopen, again, primarily by ways to expand their capacity. And so I want to remind folks to reach out to our planning department to do that. Also want to remind everyone that for reopening, our environmental health department is doing their on-site inspections, and everything is expedited at this point to make sure that happens, as is the fire marshal's office with respect to getting you your updated occupancy certificate if you're expanding occupancy based on parking lots or sidewalk. So be in touch with those offices to make sure that you can do it, and it's a great way for the city to support the reopening of these restaurants and breweries. Now, next thing we need to do is take care of some paperwork. There's a number of things we need to sign today, and the first one is an emergency declaration. As a reminder, we have continued to declare our emergencies at the city level, which have given us primarily flexibility with respect to cost reimbursement. And these do expire, which is why we're signing the 6th emergency declaration today for the city of Albuquerque. This has been modified to basically just reflect our past designations, but updated for the governor's order yesterday. So we're in step with the state, but we're also continuing to do the things that are Albuquerque specific with respect to supporting childcare and safety net services for those who are most vulnerable. It also means that we're continuing to accelerate construction projects during this time to try and support the economy. And so if there are any other changes, we can take questions on that. And today is June 11th? 12th? Oh, that's close. All right. Better get that date right. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and sign this here. And just as a little reminder, there's some kind of public notice that we have to do. So we want to do that right now. So here's the emergency declaration. We're signing it right there, and this will be obviously posted and so forth like all the other ones have been. So this will get us through another 2 weeks until probably we'll have to sign another one. But at some point, maybe in July or August, we won't be signing emergency declarations anymore, hopefully. Okay, with that, I want to talk about our deep dive topic for today. And it really is about, we're going to go ahead as a city, and myself as a mayor, and I'm going to take the Obama Mayor's Pledge. This is President Obama's pledge that he rolled out, I think it was last week, and it's through something called the My Brother's Keeper initiative. This is a commitment to APD reform. And we know that our department is in the process of it, but this is a very interesting model because it's a way to provide outside accountability into our own APD reform efforts through the Obama Foundation and My Brother's Keeper. So we're going to sign that today, and I want to speak a little bit about that before I do. Over the last few weeks, mayors from across the nation have been called on to commit to police reform at local levels. And today we're continuing this conversation on police reform by talking about just one more part of the reforms that we're doing here in our city. And that is by formally committing ourselves to the My Brother's Keeper Alliance Mayor's Pledge, commonly known as Obama's Mayor's Pledge. Lots of other mayors have signed on to this. So Mayor Bottoms in Atlanta, Breed in San Francisco, and many others. And one thing I want to say about doing things like signing pledges and so forth, I understand in many ways they can be symbols, and this certainly is a symbol, but this one is also powerful because of what's behind it. What's behind it is our ongoing effort for APD reform, and our Deputy Chief Garcia is going to speak to that in a little bit. But I also want to acknowledge we have lots and lots of work to do. And one thing that is unique about this pledge is it actually makes you outline what you're doing and then holds you accountable for doing it. So credit goes out to My Brother's Keeper and the Obama Foundation for actually making a meaningful pledge that has accountability. And so in 3 months, they will evaluate us on our progress based on that pledge. So it's a lot more than sort of your standard piece of paper. There's actually a 14-page form just to sign the pledge. So we're going to do that, of course, with APD, but even our legal team, because that's how meaningful this is. It is, again, much, much more than just signing a piece of paper. Now, APD, of course, is different than a lot of other police departments in a number of ways in that we have started that road to reform, and we're leaning into it. But I also want to be clear that we have a long, long road to go. So some of the challenges that we see all across our country are no different. They exist in our department as well. But there are a lot of other challenges that we have made some progress on, especially around use of force, even peer accountability and compliance with respect to those new rules. So these are some of the ways in which we have to continue to make progress, but we've made investments in reform to the tune of tens of millions of dollars, and that includes the bureau that Deputy Chief runs. Now, as mayor, our administration has been trying to restore trust between APD and our community, and we know that it's very fragile. We know that it is, I think, better than 3 years ago, but we also know it's fragile, and we know that we have literally hundreds of hardworking officers each and every day trying to do the right thing, and officers that save lives and protect us and keep us safe. But we also know that we make mistakes, and so we've got to learn from those mistakes and also bring accountability to those mistakes, and that continues to be what we are committed to do. Now, we did start this process by changing the leadership at APD and also putting a deputy in charge of reform. And we're going to hear from him in just a little bit, but I want to mention that last year we finished the lengthy review process of our use of force policies. And those are now in, all officers are being retrained on use of force. We have the last batch of officers left to go through the academy on that. And then we'll have at least completed what is often, at least politically and policy-wise, the hardest part. But the most lasting change part is behavior change. And of course, that can take years and years. Now, this pledge calls us to review our police use of force policies. It calls us to engage our community and get a diverse range of input, experiences, and stories. It requires us to report these findings, to review these efforts with respect to community and to seek feedback, and to reform the community's continuing the police use of force policies, which again we do, but this will add an extra layer of accountability. So while we've taken some steps, we have to go much further, and we also know that this has been tough on our department, but we appreciate to date our department has it's not always a smooth path, but we have either pushed or walked together down this path of reform, and we're going to continue to do that. But we know there's going to be challenges along the way, whether it's on a weekly basis or whether it's on our yearly review challenges. But one thing we have been able to do is move forward together. That means officers, administration, and the community. We've just got to keep doing that in a better way. So to talk more about that is our Deputy Chief of Police, Eric Garcia. Eric?
Thank you, Mayor. Good morning. I'd like to delve into a little more of the 4 parts of the Obama Mayor's Pledge. The first one is, of course, review the police use of force policies in our community. We review our policies every year. Initially, when this policy first came out, it was reviewed at 6 months. Now it's reviewed yearly. And right now, at this current time, we're reviewing our suite of policies for use of force. And we welcome public input. Chief Geyer and the mayor, we want to be sure we get community input from everybody in the community. Number 2, engage. We want to engage our community by including a diverse range of input, experiences, and stories in our review of our use of force policies. We provide the opportunity for everyone to review our use of force policies through our policy development process. Comments can be made on policies on our website. In addition, during the most recent revisions, when we overhauled our use of force policies, we held public forums in the Civilian Police Oversight Agency meeting, the board meeting, where several community groups and were able to give their feedback on these policies. We also met with these groups on a regular basis to continually have dialogue and improve our policies. And that's important because it's not just APD's policy, it's the community's policies. Report the findings of your review to your community and seek feedback. APD, we hold a meeting with the Office of Policy Analysis, OPA for short, and review its findings and propose changes to any of our use of force policies. Actually, any of our policies go through this process. Anybody in the public may attend the OPA meeting and provide their feedback. In addition, the Civilian Police Oversight Agency Director, Mr. Ed Harness, and other board members attend this meeting on a regular basis. And number 4, reform. Our community's police use of force policies. I think we've done a really good job of this. Of course, it's always going to be a work in progress. This is an evolving document. Under Mayor Keller and Chief Geyer, our policies have undergone significant reform, including the requirement that APD make every effort to preserve the sanctity of human life in all situations. At APD, our policies restrict the use of force by officers beyond the constitutionally minimum standard defined by the courts. And it requires officers de-escalate and use the minimum amount of force necessary, reasonable, and proportional. All of our policies, all use of force policies, have been reviewed by the United States Department of Justice and the independent monitoring team, and as they evaluate our progress in the consent decree, the United States versus the City of Albuquerque, that was initiated under the Obama administration. In summary, our current use of force policies, we require every officer to make every effort to preserve the sanctity of human life in every situation. Our policy is much more restrictive than the minimum constitutional standard adopted by the courts. As a matter of fact, our policy is much more restrictive than most police departments in this country, including the reporting requirements. Officers must clearly articulate the facts, demonstrating that they use the minimum amount of force necessary, reasonable, and proportional based on the totality of the circumstances confronting the officers to bring about a lawful objective. And then, like I said before, they require thorough investigations of all uses of force, and any force that results in injury or a weapon is used must be investigated by a highly trained specialized division of internal affairs. It's called our Internal Affairs Force Division. Now I'll turn it over back to Mayor Keller.
Thanks, Chief. Okay, appreciate that, Chief. And as a reminder, the actual pledge, again, is an online 14-page application. So we're not actually going to physically sign it because it's submitted online. Okay, well, as we move forward, too, as a city, and of course on our police department side, but also want to remind folks on the civilian front that we are fortunate to have a civil rights office. And this is something that our administration started, and we want to remind folks that there are some avenues to report things with respect to discrimination that occur in our city. So I want to invite the lead attorney on that, Tori Jacobus. Tori.
Hi, good morning. We've talked quite a bit about racism, and I'm here today to talk to you about what to do if you've experienced racism. You can contact my office, the Office of Civil Rights of the City of Albuquerque, to file a discrimination complaint. When you contact my office, we will talk to you about your facts, talk to you about your options. Your options include just talking to us, just getting information. It includes filing a formal complaint. It also includes just taking the information we give you and going back and advocating for yourself. We also provide trainings, be it for 1, 2 people, or large groups. So if you want to file a discrimination complaint, you can visit our website at cabq.gov/civil rights. You can call us at 768-4595 or 311. You may find when you call us that we tell you that it's not a matter we can help with because it involves the federal or state government. We still want to hear from you, though. We still want to help you, and we still want to help you find your other resources in the community. If you're reporting a hate crime, please call 911 or call APD. But same, if you don't know for sure where to call, please call my office because we want to help connect you to the services. Again, you can reach my office at 505-768-4595 or cabq.gov/civil rights or 311. Thank you, and I turn it back over to Mayor Keller.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Okay, I think with that, let's wrap up our formal remarks, and we can take some questions from folks.
We don't have any options right now.
All right. Well, it's Friday. Hard to keep track of which days are which. I know it has been since really Corona started. But we'll pause just for a few, like another minute or so, and then if there's nothing, we'll again be back Monday, probably with another update, probably again around 11:30. I do know next week we are going to focus on the budget and where we're kind of allocating resources and the structure of a lot of what we're doing with respect to things around health and public safety. All right, well, with that, we will look forward to talking to folks soon, and I hope everyone has a safe and healthy weekend. Thank you.